YouTube, on Zoom, on Facebook, and very shortly, I'm logging into Instagram. Tonight's conversation is one conversation that is out of the ordinary, at least for the conversations that we normally have on this particular channel. And tonight, we are going to be traversing the world. It is purely your global community conversation. Tonight, we shall be talking about the repatriation of asylum seekers from the United Kingdom, people who have come to seek asylum in the United Kingdom being taken to Rwanda, a decision that was reached in a deal worth 120 million pounds, call it 130 million US dollars. In that plan, the UK decided to send some of the asylum seekers, some, not all of them, some asylum seekers. And in this particular case, it will only be single men. So families for now have still managed to sort of, well, survive this. It's not so much about who has gone today or who is going tonight. It's more about the precedent that is set. Of course, Rwanda has put in place mechanisms established, and many of the African countries actually carry a lot of the burden of the refugees, taking in most of the refugees. Countries like Kenya, for example, has held on to refugees for a long time. A camp like Kakuma in Kenya has 500,000 refugees in the camp. Uganda now is host to 1 million refugees, including from neighboring countries. So to Africa, it's not a new thing where, for example, refugees have been coming. But the whole idea of getting asylum seekers who have come into a second country or a first country being referred to a second country, that is now beginning to take shape. It was first Australia that started this campaign. It actually made big headlines with that, with a lot of protests. And yet Australia still continued to send refugees. It followed on with Israel, which sent Eritreans to Rwanda, as well as a first trial into the process. And Rwanda received these Eritreans as Israel was trying to block the huge numbers of Eritreans and Ethiopians that were crossing to go into Israel. Of course, that also faced a lot of criticism. But now we have this new particular case where the United Kingdom has entered a 120 million pounds program. Some have called it, the repatriations, the cash for deportations, where people who have taken on dangerous journeys have ended up, crossing into the UK, coming to seek asylum. But now the government is saying enough is enough. They're going to spend a lot more money now to try to get them, to sort of subcontract them to another country. This has faced a lot of opposition, with people going to courts to try to stop this process. But of course, judgment yesterday by the Court of Appeals now has actually opened the way for the people to be flown to Rwanda. And tonight, the first flight, of course, is making its way to Rwanda. Initially, it was supposed to be 50 people that were supposed to be sent to Rwanda. Because of all the protestations that followed, of course, the number has dwindled. As per last night, as per last week, it had gone down to 15. As per last night, it was down to 7. And by this morning, there were even efforts now to try, by 4 people, to try to make a case not to be on the flight. But after the Court of Appeals decision, of course, it meant now these people could go ahead. Now, tonight, we have got sort of a wide variety of how we are going to be looking at this conversation. We've got an immigration lawyer, Joy Chapita, who is no stranger to this particular program. We've had her in different other capacities, but tonight she's an immigration lawyer and who has followed this case very closely. Actually, there's been a lot that we will be hearing from her. So she's already with us tonight. And also to try to balance, to hear the different views. How has Rwanda been preparing for this? How has the media in Rwanda been, sort of flagging this? If you hear in the West, all you've been bombarded with is the whole case of the negativity of this. But like the Home Secretary in the United Kingdom was saying, Priti Patel, she was saying there's an element of sort of xenophobia in this. Why can't people be sent to Rwanda? Probably it's about the policy. So we'll gauge the mood in Kigali itself, just seeing how the media has covered that and, the kind of facilities that these people are going to go in. We have a journalist, an experienced journalist at that, from Kigali in Rwanda, who has joined us live. But of course, following this particular deal with the United Kingdom, other countries started following suit. Denmark is already having conversations with Rwanda to try to see if they can join into this particular program, assuming and depending on how well it works, Denmark might be the next country now to engage. So from Denmark, we'll be hearing as well from another experienced and seasoned journalist who is in Denmark, just to give us a picture in terms of how the story has been playing. Of course, you'll know that Denmark is one of the countries that hosts quite a number of refugees, especially Somali refugees and other refugees from across, the world. But a lot of Somalis are in Denmark, just like they are in Sweden, just like they are in the United Kingdom and the United States, for that matter. It will be therefore interesting just to hear how the mood is in Denmark. So we are sort of getting sort of a round robin, crossing into all these areas to get a feel of how this story is playing. Of course, it's a big story across the world at this particular moment. But if you're Ugandan, if you're Burundian, if you're Congolese, you are safe, at least for now, because according to the plan, Rwanda's foreign minister, Vincent Biruta, doctor, he had made it very clear that actually they won't be taking in refugees from the neighboring countries. Of course, that also had its own particular implications, as many people now were sort of beginning to question why they would, for example, take refugees from elsewhere and fail to take refugees from neighboring countries. Of course, Rwanda's explanation was it doesn't want trouble with neighbors, and therefore they'll be able to take in refugees. And the experience has been there. They took in Eritreans. It will be interesting just to find out what happened to those Eritreans. Welcome to Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It's your global community conversation. And just to remind you, we are live on 75W Radio. We are streaming live on YouTube, and we are also streaming live on Facebook and on Instagram, where we have just logged in as well. So tonight's conversation, like I've said, our panel that is going to help us in the discussion, you are all there. You are probably a Ugandan who has your case. You are a Rwandese, you are a Burundian, you are a Congolese who has a case that is with the Home Office. Midway, not sure what is happening. It might be, just one of those that actually are difficult. Let's just play this clip to help prepare us into the conversation tonight, following that particular ruling by the appeals court, and then we'll get to the experts and hear what you have to say. And remember, in this program, you are the experts. So you are the experts, and therefore we'll be listening from you in terms of how you are receiving this news. Probably you have a relative who is not from Uganda, who is not from this country, is a friend that probably you are worried about. Isma. Oh, Isma, not sure why there is a sort of an echo. Isma, I think you are logged into two PCs and they are both playing. Isma, if you can just stop it and start it again, please. There was an echo that was annoying. Yeah, there was an echo. I think there were like two gadgets logged in at the same time. Thank you. Now there's no sound, Isma. There's no sound, or either it's too low. We can't hear it at all. It was on and then it's disappeared. Sorry, our viewers and listeners, just as we try to sort out that audio aspect, we'll just remind you that in this conversation, of course, if you have any views, the chat room is open. You can ask your questions. You can raise your hand, and you can have a conversation with our guests tonight from Denmark, from Kigali. Yeah, let's try that, Isma, now. Looks like the echo is still in for some reason.
A deceiving snapshot of the UK's refugee crisis. Over 10,000
Not sure why, Isma. I think that it's annoyingly there still.
an injunction to block their plans.
Maybe if I sort it out.
Perhaps you can be having.
Okay, yeah, we'll just take in the guests while you try to sort it out. Once it's ready, please let us know, and then we'll come to that. Let's just actually start with Joy Chapita, a lawyer in the United Kingdom here. Joy, thank you very much for making the time to join the conversation tonight. You are an immigration lawyer, and well, of course, I would like to get, first of all, your reaction building up to this particular story, which for the last 1 month, I think has been, shaking the tables with everybody having a view on what is going on. Good enough. I think it would be good to hear your own personal perspective on this. Joy.
Hello, good evening, friends. Good evening, Kassim. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you very much for making it. Well, your reactions, first of all, about this particular case.
It is a sad situation because we know that, you've just been explaining the category of people who are going to be taken to Rwanda. So what they're saying, these are people who have entered the UK illegally, by boats, and they're trying to do this so they can stop those people who use the boats to come to the UK. That's the message that Patel is trying to send. That's what she's been saying. But you see, in refugee law, they also say that a person who is running away from danger is not going to look for documents and is going to use whatever there is, including agents, to take them wherever. And we used to win cases in court, actually, where they wanted to take people like what we used to call third countries, where they would take you back to France or Belgium because you passed there on your way to the UK. We used to win those kind of cases. And we cannot believe that's happening here, where they haven't even assessed people. They're just looking at how did you enter the country? And then they put you on that list of those people they are taking to Rwanda. So my opinion is that it is illegal. It is unlawful because the law says when you enter a safe country, they should process you. So the UK hasn't processed these people, and it's like trafficking. As a matter of fact, it's like they're trying to pass these people to another country to deal with it because they don't want to deal with it. So they're sending a very wrong message.
Joy, this case was taken to the High Courts.
Yeah.
It was thrown out. Well,
yeah.
Then it went to the Appeals Court, and then the Appeals Court actually last night stopped taking this particular case to the Supreme Court, because we were thinking that the government must be allowed to implement its policies. You see a problem with that. Should the government implement its policies?
The policy is wrong, and actually, as a matter of fact, they are appealing against the policy, and they believe that before the end of this year there will be a hearing, and this policy could be found to be unlawful. So the policy at the moment is what it is, but we believe that with time, depending on what evidence is going to be found, it could be found to be unlawful. My opinion on this, now again, maybe looking at the bigger picture, we can say that Africa actually hosts most refugees. Uganda hosts more refugees than any European country. Yeah. And we are very proud to be Ugandans who host people who need, safety, and what I see is that we've gone on the map. They keep saying this East African country, this small country. It's no longer small because they have thought about sending these people to that country for some reason. So for me, I think that moving forward as a Ugandan or as an immigration lawyer from East Africa, I think it is a good thing in a way that they're identifying that we can manage refugees. I'm just worried that, if you get an Iranian and send them to East Africa, that's not something they were looking for, because when people are choosing their countries, they have a reason as to why. So they were not thinking of going somewhere in Africa.
Yeah, but I think who would want to choose, Joy? Who would want to choose Africa then, for that matter? I mean,
no one.
Because people leave when they have sold. I think the reality of a program like this is when we discuss this, it's not just the politics of it. It's about the historical aspect, the social aspects. People still land titles, and you put it in a bank to get money, to get a smuggler to get you over the border. You manage to get here, you've taken the family's land title, and then the next thing is you're just taken you're
in the middle of nowhere.
Back into Africa. That can be a disappointment, like for many. But the government now says it wants to control, to block the whole people smuggling campaign.
it will work for them. And today we got 100 again in Kent. You saw, I think, on the news, we got new arrivals in Kent, over 100 again arrived today by boat. So the message hasn't got home yet, because we got quite a few already in transit. But I'm sure when they start removing people, transferring people to Rwanda, I'm sure people will fear to come. It will be a strong message. But again, for me, I'm not happy with this policy, Kassim,
sure.
as you
I
can
don't know
imagine.
what's going on your end there, Joy, because
No, for me, I'm okay. The problem, I think, is in the studio.
right.
I've been.
I can hear an echo sort of coming through. No problem. Go ahead, please.
I only have one.
You're saying you
One
think
phone
the
I'm
problem
using.
is going to be
Rwanda is going to benefit from this scheme, as a matter of fact, because they're going to pump money there.
£120 million is a lot of money.
And I'll be visiting Rwanda next year just to see how this is playing out.
Right.
They are going to make a lot of money. I think they'll create more jobs. As we all know, there are too many NGOs in Rwanda. So it is a good thing for Rwanda. But for the refugees, it's not a good thing, because that's what they thought, like you said. When you sell your land, you get on that boat, risking your life, leaving nothing back home but debt, and then they put you on a plane to Africa. That is really a disaster. But again, they will know now, when they're selling their things to get smugglers, they will know that you're likely to end up in Rwanda. So Patel is going to win in one way or the other. However, it's also going to put off people from showing up. So we get people who come in illegal, they will just stay illegal and not claim asylum, because they know if you claim asylum, they will take you to Africa.
Now, Joy, one of the things that has happened, well, before I go to that question, let me just ask this. You don't see a problem with people going to Rwanda, being taken to Rwanda, other than the fact that it is the UK reneging on its responsibility. There is no problem as to taking people to Rwanda.
There is a problem with that, because, as a person, if you were claiming asylum and you find yourself in that situation, there is a problem with that, because that's not what you anticipated. Because when these people were coming here, they did not know about this policy. This policy has just been like fast tracked from April. So they have been let down. But there is no problem, like being sent to Rwanda, because Rwanda, according to what they have shown us, it's a safe country. And if you're looking for safety, we don't think you're going to get killed when you get to Rwanda. You're not going to get the services you wanted, but Rwanda is a safe country. Yes, we've talked about, LGBT members. And I know somebody has come up to say, from the Rwanda, government, they have come up to say, oh, there is freedom and all that. We all know most African countries discriminate members of the LGBT. But then, having said that, you can win individual cases. Like I'm just reading right now, there is somebody from Iraq, who has pulled it off and is not going to be on that plane tonight. So I believe that they will be looking at individual cases. And if people feel that, it's not going to be safe for them to be in this African country, they can still have their appeal allowed on individual basis only, not as a group appeal.
So now the first approach has been regarding just single men, not even women, but single men. So people who are in families, because you've seen it, Joy, this is something that is, to me, I think I've really delved into this subject so deeply. That I went to the very source. I went to Nigeria, managed to get a fake passport. Well, got a genuine passport, but through abnormal ways. Paid my way, got a passport, traveled all the way from Nigeria, went into Niger, crossed the Sahara Desert, ended up in Libya briefly, and then crossed back into Morocco, and ended up, I've seen the kind of troubles and traumas that people go through. Despite all efforts that have been done, I mean, in other instances, for example, the Italian Coast Guards, there are times they would just leave the boats to capsize and so on. This has not stopped people from coming. So people will still continue to come. Is it worthy, the sort of the investment by the UK government to try to now take them? Because actually the amount of money takes about 20,000 to 30,000 to process a refugee. And that's the same amount of money that now they are taking now to spend over in Rwanda. Isn't it double work? Because people will still get here, and then as they are getting processed to be taken to Rwanda,
let me tell you, Kassim, this is a racist policy. We have to call it as it is. They don't want people who are non-whites. Why don't they take Ukrainians there? Yeah? They are targeting people. We have to say it as it is, that they just don't want people who are not white. That's what they're doing.
So
why are they targeting
none of the
people from
Ukrainians
Iran?
can find themselves in Kigali. They won't be on that plane.
Exactly. So they are trying to inherit an Australian model, which is based on racism. And we all know that they're trying to. Why are they not getting Ukrainians who are desperate right now? Yet it is much easier to go and airlift those Ukrainians, take them straight to Rwanda and tell them this is a safe country. They just don't want people who are coming from countries that are not white. And it is a racist policy. And somebody one day will tell them.
Thought through. Now you're actually doing a revelation.
If you look at the list, they're Muslims mainly that they're targeting, and they're also targeting people who are non-whites. And they think we don't see through that. So I believe one day somebody's going to put it on their face and say, look, you're being racist, and everybody's saying this. Why don't they take Ukraine? I'm even getting angry, Kassim. I don't want to lose it. I'm sorry.
I'll get you.
See, when you push me, this is what you get, Kassim.
I think from the studio now the clip is ready. Let's just play that clip. Get it come. Yes, Madam Sam.
The funny bit of it is that I think this policy, there's no turning around or going back to this policy, because when I had the news around 7 p.m., they said that they are going to use a Boeing 767, and it takes about 200 passengers. Yeah,
to take only, there were 7, but now 4 are making a claim, so it could be 3 passengers.
No, they actually say even if it's they actually said even if it's 1 passenger, they will have to fly that person to Rwanda, because I think
to make a point. All right, let's just play this clip first, and then we'll come back and open up the conversation. This is your global community conversation. We're going to open the microphones, and then we'll start having a conversation, a deep conversation regarding this situation. I've actually seen people who have joined us tonight, people that have not heard from in a long time. People like Charles Kawanen, who's just joined us as well tonight, and then from Kigali, and we're in Denmark, we're in the United States, we are in the UK, and even in Uganda. I've seen a couple of names coming up. Thank you very much, Isma. Let's play that clip. Let's just get ourselves ready, and then actually it might even be now that this clip is too old, but this was 3 days ago. This was just in the build-up to the decision that was made about the flights continuing to go ahead.
Calm shores, a deceiving snapshot of the UK's refugee crisis. Over 10,000 have crossed this year, among them the first to be sent to Rwanda next week, after the High Court denied an injunction to block their flight.
Devastated and desperate, but if any of them are able to see this, I guess our message would be that we are not going to stop fighting. We will be strongly considering our next steps, and we continue to believe, as strongly as we did this morning, this is an unlawful policy causing great harm, and we'll continue to challenge it.
This is a brutal policy against people who are already traumatized. I can tell you that we've seen about 100 of them already, and simply on the knowledge that they might be deported, it adds further trauma.
The plan is to send asylum seekers to accommodation like this in Rwanda, where their case will be heard. Campaigners argued in court it's unlawful, unsafe and unfair. The government's legal team said the new immigration policy is in the public interest to deter dangerous and illegal journeys.
The government's Rwanda scheme is a chaotic diversion, not thought through scheme, which isn't going to solve the problems. Of course, we don't want people making that dangerous crossing. Of course, we want to clamp down on the people smugglers. The way to do that is to have a proper plan with the French authorities and a proper plan for upstream operations to intercept these groups before they even arrive on the north coast of France.
In a statement, the Home Secretary said, people will continue to try and prevent their relocation through legal challenges and last-minute claims, but we will not be deterred in breaking the deadly people smuggling trade and ultimately saving lives.
The Home Office know, though, that this wasn't their last legal battle, but they are committed politically to pursuing this policy. To be seen to be tough on immigration post-Brexit, they insist it is lawful and complies with their international obligations.
And in Dungeness, on the front line of illegal migration, there's some support.
If they're estimating 100,000 by the end of the year, then we can't just sit back and do nothing.
Something definitely needs to happen, but whether it's the right move, I don't know. I think it should be done before they come across.
Priti Patel, shame on you! Priti Patel, shame on you!
An appeal will likely be heard on Monday, another 11th hour attempt to stop the Rwanda flight, and not the last. All this is just the start. Adele Robinson, Sky News at the High Court.
Time for your QI'DAH confession.
I used to think.
Thank you very much. Thank you
super
very
vaginas.
much. Thank you very much. Now we've just had this one report. It was just building up. The next piece, which we'll go into, will actually sort of detail the actual plan. But I think why don't we just have a conversation first regarding the situation that we are in. Let's first go to Kigali, just in case the lines will decide to disappear. And there will be we are joining journalist Nasira Bishumba. Nasira, first of all, in Kigali, has the plane landed yet? Thank you very much for joining us. She is a seasoned journalist that I worked with so many years ago, and now suddenly still in Kigali, working on a different project, but a journalist, always a journalist. Thank you very much, Nasira, for joining us. Has the plane landed yet? Yes.
You literally just called me old in very few words.
Well, you can see the gray coming through the beard, so therefore we are no longer young. We can pretend with everything else.
Anyway, to answer your question, the plane hasn't arrived. It's scheduled, I think, to set off tonight. You know, this whole thing has been, the government of Rwanda is being very careful about it. So we really don't know what time the plane is getting here, but what I can tell you is that it's not yet here, but from the information I have, it's likely to get here in the wee hours of the morning, deep in the night. And there's no media that is allowed at the airport. No
How
one
that the
is
media
going
would
to
be
be
allowed there?
No,
given
not
the international perspective, yes.
Not at all. I think also this is what they have done previously, even when the Libyan refugees were brought in, even when the Afghan girls were brought in, which kind of makes sense because, I mean, it's they are refugees, so you don't want to start looking like you're using them for PR. They need to be protected. So yeah, there's no access.
For someone listening into this conversation tonight, probably people who are attending tonight's conversation might be unaware that actually there are already Libyans in Rwanda, there are already Afghan women already in Rwanda, and there were Eritreans who came to Rwanda. So just lay out that maybe so that it's clear to the audience tonight.
Yes, it's actually, now that you point it out, I don't know, I imagine this is like a free conversation, so I could I could go back to what is it Joy was just saying. When the Libyans were being brought here and the Afghan girls were being brought to Rwanda, everyone was cheering Rwanda. This is a very good thing. This is very safe. It's kind of different now when people are coming from the UK. Oh, you're being taken to Rwanda. Oh my God, Rwanda is not a good place. It's you can't help but think about what she has been talking about, maybe in terms of racism.
Yes.
How Rwanda is fit for some people, then tomorrow Rwanda is not fit for some people. It all doesn't make sense. And if you, like she said, read between the lines, you can probably understand why some people feel like there are racist connotations to it.
How have the Libyans and the Afghans settled in? Because now we are talking about these ones who haven't even arrived. How have the others before, the Eritreans, the Libyans, and the Afghans? Well, the Eritreans, first of all, I think that's a special case. We'll treat it separately because being from that close Africa, but Libya, although Africa, it's Arab Africa, and then the Afghans. How have they settled in?
I really can't give you a precise answer to that. It's what I can tell you is that I've been reading their stories in the local newspapers. They're giving interviews. They are moving around. And I think I noticed that like the Libyans, the Afghans, some of them, their girls have relaxed on on the hijabs. I think the strict rules. I mean, they're still prayerful people, but I think the strictness of the Taliban or whoever had a grip on them has loosened. So you get the sense that people are a little bit more relaxed. I mean, they are still not home, but I think
and you can't blame them being around Rwandan miniskirts.
Absolutely.
Yes, it could be a temptation. Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the media in Rwanda, how did the media cover this story? Or because you say the government has been sort of closed, it has not been so open about how it's going to go about this or how it goes about this. How has the media covered? Was there excitement regarding this repatriation? Because with the Afghan, you said even the international media was praising Rwanda so much. Regarding this particular UK expected arrivals, how has the media covered that in radio stations, newspapers, and TVs?
I think I should tell you about the entire media landscape right now in terms of local and international media. Right now, any journalist in Rwanda who is not making money as a stringer needs to check her credentials or his credentials, because the entire world media has literally descended on Rwanda for the last 3 days. Yeah. So you have CNN, you have France 24, you have Sky, you have, I don't know how to explain
Al Jazeera.
It. Yes. They are everywhere and they are willing to go, I don't know to what length to get the story. It's a complicated story for them to do, because I think for the way the world is looking at the story is not the way the local typical Rwandan is looking at the story. I think it all.
So how is the local typical Rwandan looking at the story? That's what probably I wanted to bring out.
Yeah, I think these are my individual comments and observations. I think when you look at Rwanda, you feel like the whole meaning of a refugee or asylum seeker has a different meaning for everyone, because in one way or another, most Rwandans, if not all of them, have been refugees in a way. Either they're the ones.
Yes.
We have people like myself who were born to parents who are refugees in Uganda. Then you have people who committed genocide and ran away, and they were refugees, and some are still refugees. You have people who are running away from the atrocities in 1994 who are also refugees. You have all sorts of people. So whoever was not a refugee was born one or has been around one, and it's something that is common with Rwandans. So when I feel personally that when you talk about refugees, the elite in the capital city, and when they're talking about what's going on right now with the UK and Rwanda agreement, and then you ask someone who is 200 kilometers away from Kigali, either they have had it in the news and they're not paying too much attention, or their opinion is different. Because when you look at, for example, where these people are going to be living, where they're going to be staying, and then you compare it to how people know of their life in the past as refugees, they don't understand. So they are refugees, they're being brought to Rwanda, but look at their
that's
bedrooms,
quite interesting.
Look at their, know. They are comparing.
Isma, please prepare that clip on the hotel where these people are going to stay. It was supposed to be our last clip, but I think we should bring it earlier. So now that Nasra has mentioned it, so that we can open up the conversation. You are mentioning about the sort of racist comments. I've just seen CNN here. CNN has written a piece, and they say a hostel that hosted Rwandan genocide survivors prepares to take in people deported by the UK. I mean, you look at just the headline itself. It has particular connotations, I think, that from a legal perspective, Joy would have an issue with. That's CNN, a hostel that hosted Rwanda genocide survivors. That's Hotel de Mille Collines, I should assume. Prepares to take in people.
No, it's not.
Which one is that?
About the hostel.
Well, they put Hotel de Mille Collines. That's the one. That's the picture that is on here.
That's a bit odd.
Maybe that's where they're reporting from. that would be too posh. Little coins.
Right. Isma, if you can just find that clip, please. Nasra, thank you very much. Stay there. Let's just try to widen a little bit on the conversation, and Joy is still there as well. So Nasra, I'll just come back to you. Isma, if you have that clip ready, I think we can just get our people to see the kind of place that the asylum seekers, not that one, it's the next one. That will be our next clip, but this other one, first of all, the last one, the hotel, just taking us through the rooms, and then you see this. And this is what Nasra was sort of referring to, saying you compare these many people are refugees, wherever they were as refugees, comparing that situation with this situation, it doesn't add up. Okay, yeah, so it's that one inside the hotel. So it's the Hope Hostel. This one is new, actually. It's not one of the old ones. Hope Hostel.
Yeah, it's a new building. Yeah.
Yes. So you can see.
No, it's not new.
is there any way of making this a full photo, Isma? It's too narrow now. We just need it. No, just full screen. Yep. It's coming in that format. Can you unmute the audio as well, please?
Okay, they're all double bedrooms, and they've all been set up and made ready for when they do come to Rwanda. This is one of the bedrooms here, which you can have a look at. It's been made ready. The beds have been laid out. There's a table in the corner as well. And there's a table of amenities as well, which is obviously for when they arrive, they're trying to make it as comfortable as possible. There are also some slippers down here, which they'll be putting on, they'll be offered to put on as well. There's a view of Kigali out of the window. And this is a place which is interesting because I've been here before, but when I was here, there wasn't all of the Arabic signage. That was in April, but in a couple of months in between, it's quite clear they've started thinking about asylum seekers who are from Arabic countries and how they can accommodate them. So that means there's a prayer room in here. There are also signs everywhere in Arabic. Halal food is also offered. This is the Hope Hostel in Kigali. It's got 100 bedrooms, which are going to house asylum seekers from the UK. They're all double bedrooms, and they've all been set up and made ready for when they do come to Rwanda. This is one of the bedrooms here, which you can have a look at. It's been made ready. The beds have been laid out. There's a table in the corner as well. And there's a table of amenities as well, which is obviously for when they arrive.
That's a short one. It's
as
repeated.
comfortable as possible. There are also some slippers down here, which they'll be putting on, they'll be offered to put on as well. There's a view of Kigali out of the window.
Isma, we are ready to go.
Which is interesting because I've been here before, but when I was here, there wasn't all of the Arabic signage. That was in April, but in a couple of months in between, it's quite clear they've started thinking about asylum seekers who are from Arabic countries and how they can accommodate them. So that means there's a prayer room in here. There are also signs everywhere in Arabic. Halal food.
Can we stop that, please?
This is the Hope Hostel in Kigali.
Just playing back and back. Can we just, all right, thank you very much. Apologies for the complete replay. Now, the implications are, from what we've seen, that's the kind of place where these people are going to be staying. Remember, if you have anything, you can actually share it in the chat room or just raise your hand. Mr. Makumbi, I'll come to you. I just wanted to sort of do a quick round robin across the country so that then we settle into the conversation. Here, there's a quick message here in the chat room. At what point is the country full? That is from Agaba. And Kitunzi AM says, this is just a financial transaction. UK paying Rwanda to deal with their immigration problem. But in life, you cannot have a cake and eat it alone when your neighbors are starving. UK messed up and bombed so many countries. Now they think they can enjoy their loot alone. People will continue coming at all costs and they won't stop. Well, one of the countries, of course, that has been receiving so many refugees and actually is considering the idea of moving these aspects of coping. They are already in discussions with Rwanda after the United Kingdom did, was Denmark. And there we have a journalist, Mark Dowell Kalisa. Mark Dowell, welcome to the conversation. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Wrong time.
Well, this story, how has it been playing? First of all,
I'm not in Denmark, but I'm nearby Denmark. I live in Sweden. But I've been following the politics in Denmark, or Scandinavian countries and Nordic countries.
Sweden as well.
Yeah. So here for me, what I'm gonna say. By the way, I have some few points. One. All these things starts with the Brexit effect and Steve Bannon effect and the accomplices from France. This is all about racism, but sophisticated racism. This is how we are living in this world. Brexit wasn't about so much going out of European Union. It was about doing something to make sure they have to stop something, which is when here now they have this kind of, even here in Sweden, if you are married to a white woman, you're an African, or a white woman married to an African man or an Arab or anything, they feel like when you get kids, that person will be inferior. That's first. That is racism directly. Second, I'm talking about the benefiters, which is Rwanda. Rwanda, for example, maybe they're bringing back the money they're giving to Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain. That's what I can say. Because for me, I don't understand when you are a collaborator of racism. You are collaborating is like the chiefs, how they used to sell people during the colonial times, taken to America or somewhere, Jamaica or where, Caribbean. And there is a lot of things when I'm saying about when they're saying they're going to process the refugee claims of asylum,
the asylum claim,
in Rwanda. You know, for me, it's really a terrible thing, because as we know, they used to say Rwanda is a zero corrupt country. Nothing, because it's going to happen. I've seen many people being.
Yeah, but McDowell,
they're going to process out.
Yes, McDowell. The problem. This is not about Rwanda's problem. Rwanda has seen an opportunity and tapped into it, because like Australia started with the campaign. It went to the Chagos Islands and it paid to take its refugees there. It became a big problem.
A big problem.
Has just mobilized itself and seen an opportunity and tapped into that. Should it be a blame on the UK other than Rwanda? Because Rwanda is
no. For me, if you collaborate with it, you are accomplished. You are doing something. You are doing something with somebody who is doing something bad, but then you are doing with him together to benefit something. And mostly,
it's 120 million, McDowell. It's 100 pounds.
120 million. Yes. It's money. It's nothing. It's like not 120 million Rwandan francs. You see? And the benefiters, who are the benefiters? By the way, we know everything gonna be direct to some few people. Hey, when you are talking about the hostel, that hostel $1 campaign, I contributed that money. I remember the concert here in Sweden. I contributed the day Michael Jackson died, 25th of June 2009. I contributed my money to build that.
Yeah, but McDowell.
And then here,
McDowell, I'd like us to keep in the focus of this particular conversation.
Yeah. Here we go.
Rwanda now taking in the refugees. I know you probably have issues, with the Rwandan government.
Yeah, I don't have an issue about that. I'm talking about.
So on the issue of refugees,
would you
say that it is wrong? What do you see as being wrong?
The wrong thing is to be a collaborator of racism in a high. By the way, here we have the Ukrainians. They are moving around in the trains without paying, without doing anything. I remember some few years back, they are welcoming them. We have in UK. In UK, they are there. Why they didn't take them? Okay, let me say, I was born a refugee back in Tanzania. And now, by the way, I'm a refugee again. Here we go. Let me ask you something. Mr. Kassim, Mr. President Kagame used to be a refugee. Let me ask if he was taken to Kunduz or Kandahar during those days. What was going to, the parents they were going to accept that? No. These people are from Afghanistan. I know them. I work with them. Some of them. I work with Iranian. I work with the Syrians. I've been living with them. All this time I've been living here. Then I'm asking myself, you know, they're coming, they have their relatives. Why don't you leave them stay with their relatives? Huh? It's kind of.
McDowell,
Can I come in?
Yes, Joy, please come in.
No, let me say.
Bring the legal aspect here. Bring the legal aspect.
Okay, listen. Let me give me an example. One example. In 1960s, Mwalimu Nyerere, the Rwandans who did just free going to be refugee in Tanzania, across the border, they did. Some of them, they were going to be taken to Canada. Mwalimu said one thing: why should they take them to Canada? Huh? They can stay here. We have the same language. They can be here. Some of them, they are big people in government of Rwanda right now. They were settled in Mwese, in Mpanda, you know. So I'm asking myself, these people, they have relatives. So why do you move them?
Mr. Kalisa.
All right.
These people who are being transported to Rwanda do not have families in this country. They're assessing them. Every individual is being assessed. They do not have families here. These are single people who have just come. They just happen to know somebody who speaks the same language. I am saying this because I'm a social worker here, and I work with a lot of young people who arrive in Kent, you know, who come by boat. And also I've been an immigration lawyer for the last 17 years. So, but I've been following this policy closely. So what they say, if you have a family, you can challenge that. But you see, of course, they struggle because they don't have paperwork. But again, if you really believe you have a real uncle, you can have the DNA, you can do all this. But these people are singles. We don't want to say the policy is bad. I agree with you, as I said earlier, but they're not doing that, Mr. Kalisa. And also, I don't think Rwanda is to blame, because Rwanda just opened their doors and said, we can take on those people. Let me tell you, we have Afghans who have been placed in the hotel, in bed and breakfast for the last 3 years, and they have never even been interviewed. We have young people who are looked after because, you know, when you're a minor and you claim asylum in the UK, you become a looked after child. They have turned 18. They have never even been interviewed. They're just in the system. So we have an asylum system which is not working. And David Milburn was saying this evening that they just need to employ staff to manage this, to process applications. And if you want to refuse somebody, refuse them, let them go through the asylum system, and then you deport them back to their countries. But you can't be moving people to another country to deal with your problem. I like that when you said it is the UK's problem. They're trying to give it to another country. I think Rwanda, we should credit Rwanda for opening their door when the UK could not keep them anymore. Yes, it comes with a cost. That's why they go to pay the Rwanda government to look after them. And I like it when my other friend, the lady, from Kigali said, they're not even saying it in the newspaper. They would be showing off right now and saying, look, it is us who are receiving. But because Rwanda understands what it means to be a refugee. At least everybody has had somebody who has been a refugee in Rwanda. They know that it's not something you are proud of. You are not proud to be a refugee. You understand? So there is just so much around it. So what I like the fact they haven't gone in the newspapers, they haven't been parading, saying all kinds of things. They are keeping it down so that when these people come, it's not all about them. But you see that CNN that you were showing us earlier, we know what they are doing. We know they want to condemn the policy, and they are going to show us what we want to hear, that this is illegal. So
Joy,
that's a campaign.
I'll go back to McDowell just briefly, but before I let you go, because we're still with you. Joy, this is a question for you. Do you see the potential for a ripple effect resulting from this particular process? I mean, what I mean is other countries across the continent in Africa coming in to also chip in and start having discussions with other countries in Europe, for example, to start taking their refugees. The United States, for example, would be very happy if it had a way of getting rid of those Mexicans and trying to get them there. You see a sort of a ripple effect with other countries sort of beginning to sort of copycat versions of this that is, between the UK and Rwanda.
Kassim, just last year, Uganda received Afghans, didn't we? We received those beautiful Afghans. And again, they said, oh, Uganda is going to benefit from this, is out of corruption and all that. But again, we know Uganda has been taking on refugees anyway. So it is the spirit that these countries have of opening their doors even when they have nothing. Because they have hosted when they had nothing. So for me, what I'm going to see, countries are going to unite and, and just say that, you know what, those people don't want us anymore. So they will get the message, like I said, and like Mr. Kalisa has also agreed with my other colleague. This is a racist policy. They don't want people who are non-whites to come here. And they're sending that message clearly to say that if you come here, we are taking you to where you don't want to go. So you make up your mind. By the way, when they give you the notice, they tell you, you have a choice to go back to your country or we take you to Rwanda. So you have a choice. That, Rwanda is one that is going to process your asylum claim, not the UK. And that is not right. Of course, it's not an option to somebody who has run away from danger. It is really unbelievable. It's like when they were saying you need to claim asylum from your country. How can you be standing in fire and you say, oh, you can come and help me? Because in the first case, once you say, I'm here, I'm waiting for you to process my claim, they can actually say, you are safe. If you can cry, you are safe. That is how they make the arguments. So for me, what I'm seeing here, they are trying to send a message. I mean, let's get it. This is a conservative government. They are anti-immigration. Mr. Kalisa, I agree with you. Brexit was about immigration. Forget all these things. So it was about immigration. We all remember what Boris was saying. The campaign was all about immigration. And guess what? They're saying they're going to come out of the European, what they call it, like the European Court of Human Rights. They're going to come out of it. Why? Because Iraq has gone there already.
Can I say something there?
Thank you very much, Joy. Stay there, please. Let me go to McDowell with one last comment, and then we open the
okay. Can I say something? What the problem is, like, to tell those refugees, you just talk to the refugees. Okay, we are taking you back home, or you are going to Rwanda. It means like Rwanda, you are going to Jehannam. That's the problem I have right now. The impression of Rwanda, it
because
means
if you run away
there is
from
something
country,
wrong.
So you run away from your country.
And
they tell you,
okay, we are taking you to Rwanda. So this is kind of very big problem. People, that's why you hear the border. What? There is a man who was talking today, the whole day on BBC.
Right.
News. He's a border union of what?
Border agency, yes.
Yeah, border agency.
UK border agency.
Yeah. The case gonna be in July.
Yes.
Yeah, but they are making sure to make it in a hurry.
Yes.
That is a big problem, and it's inhumane because these people, they didn't run from their country going to Rwanda. They're running somewhere, they want to be safe or something like that. But then they don't know even Rwanda, what is Rwanda. Many people today at my work, what is going on in Rwanda? What's going on? Everything in the news here around. And then Denmark, as you say, Denmark.
Yes.
One of an MP, they already did visit Rwanda for 3 days.
Yeah.
She came back. Rosa, she came back. She did go to the whole things, and then she knew media and everything. She said everything. Now, because Denmark is still in the EU, European Union, they are afraid a little bit what is going on, because I'm following what is happening there. Somehow the language, we can understand each other, what they are talking, because the language is different, but then somehow.
Finally, within Sweden itself, do you think probably a conversation will start opening up now regarding, what has happened?
The problem in Sweden is not easy because, okay, we have this, there is a racist part, not a racist, but we call it racist party. Right wing. Sverige Demokraterna, Swedish Democrats. They are somehow, they are gaining. See, when I came here, they were just down there. But every day they are coming up. They are coming up, especially after 2011.
Yeah.
Everything has been changing. So they are coming up, and then we have they can't be, there is center right, moderate, but they are not going to work with them because they know they're going to lose many people. So there is a problem of this year elections. So maybe something like that can happen here in Sweden. So
thank you very much.
Thank you so
very
much,
McDowell. Let me just go ahead. Thank you very, very much for stay on, because the conversation is just beginning. We just wanted to open up and hear from the different sides. Issa Makumbi, you have the mic. Issa Makumbi, please go ahead. I was asking. Oh, hello there.
How are you? Yeah, I think which not being discussed by the panel. Why do we get the refugees? I lived in Libya once. I would never thought that I could have a Libyan refugee. When Europeans went in, they disturbed their system. They caused a lot of problems, and they end up with the refugees that are being chased away at this time. The other thing behind this is much of it is trafficking, which have been not highlighted. If here the amount of money they are paying for the journey, it's unbelievable. It's not a poor man who is being oppressed, who is traveling around this place. When they say refugee, they have been through France. The law states you have to apply for refugee at the first point of contact, which is France, where they go through, or Belgium, wherever they go. Why they come at Calais to come to England? It means that those are not refugees. They're just trying to find a way. If they're refugees, they should have applied for refugee status in France, or they've gone through Germany. People have been talking about Ukraine. They've been invaded. And all the able men have been told to stay behind and fight for their rights or for their country. So these are being brought because you look at a country like Poland having 5 million at once. You have to share the responsibility. And that's why they come in here and allow them to work temporarily till they sort out their problems at home. Another thing.
But Issa, I think that the problem is, I have embarked on this journey. Actually, when I talk about immigration, at least within the context of UK, the kind of knowledge that I have on this is practical. Like I've been through hell and back.
Yeah.
Paid my way. Basically, after we crossed from Morocco, I was arrested because I was trying to go into a truck. They were trying to smuggle me through a tractor spare tire, the Caterpillar spare tire. And I couldn't fit in because my stomach was big, so I couldn't bend. I couldn't bend enough to sit in a spare tire. So I was arrested by Moroccan authorities, at which point I actually brought out my British passport, and so they realized I was British, and I was just saying, I was trying to see how easy it is to cross. And so they sort of made a point. From Melilla, which is the Spanish part on Africa, but from Morocco, we flew to Spain, to Madrid, ended up in Greece, in Athens. There, I found people who had already left Misrata, who had left Benghazi, who had money to be smuggled. And because many of the Arabs, especially the Syrians, had a lot of money. So for you, actually, if, for example, to get on that boat, you see the dinghy boats, the dinghies that people travel with, to get on that boat, to be given a life jacket, you pay 4,000 to 6,000 euros. 4,000 to 6,000 euros. You pay for that. That allows you to get a life jacket and to enter inside, the boat inside. At least you are not on top. The people that you see on top are the people that normally capsize immediately when stuff happens. They don't have any protection whatsoever. Those often are the Africans. They are paying 200 to 2,000, depending again on how much you can raise. You pay that and then you get a chance to sit. I lived these experiences. Getting to Greece, and you see in Athens, and what was happening on the streets and the desperation. Many people come in and they have a connection. So they will come to UK because they can speak a bit of English, or they have a sort of a British connection. People don't want to go to France because, yes, of course, there are no jobs. The jobs are not, that available. But language also becomes a barrier. It takes a bit of time for you to be able to get into that. So people end up crossing and making these perilous journeys because once they get into UK, there's something that is waiting for them. Joy, I'll let you coming in as whenever you can, because this is a legal issue and this is an issue that you are deeply involved in. So I'll allow you to.
I haven't finished the host.
No,
okay.
Probably.
The other thing is they've got a strategy whereby this is the future people who will be used when they go to Rwanda. They'll give them a lot of money. Come 10 years, they'll be the industrialists who take over Rwanda. We had the same problem with the Indians when they came to Uganda. They came as workers, but they gave them all the opportunities, and they become a problem. They've taken over our economy.
No, that is like a conspiracy.
Yeah.
No,
it's not conspiracy. It's not.
Joy,
don't agree. I don't agree with that one. That was like a conspiracy. No, these are desperate people. These are no the Indians who came.
You go to West Africa, you see the India, you see the Arabs who are controlling the economy over there. They are not there before, but when they came, they gave all the facilities and ability. They end up controlling their stronghold, controlling their economy. So this is just a strategy. Come another 20 years. Those will be the investors.
No,
and the Indians. The other thing I want to make a point. Most of our leaders, they don't like locals who are rich. They would prefer foreigners who are rich, whom they can control.
No.
No.
You see, Patel. What's
the point?
Pretty Patel was a refugee.
Actually, Joy, that was
Pretty Patel was a refugee.
That was the concern I had, and she came from our region. From our region, and the fact that now she's already forgotten this and trying to be.
And Lord Poppet. Lord Poppet, Lord Poppet.
I haven't finished my presentation. When the Asian came here, they are paid twice. We are compensated by Ome, compensated by Obote, and compensated by M7, whereby they have enough resources to do business in this place. That's why.
But you see, the Indians lost their property. That's what you need to remember.
No. You forget about the facts. They lost their property, but they are compensated three times. I mean, compensated them, Obote compensated them, and M7 compensated them, and whereby they became financially strong. And that's why you see all those pretty parties coming up, because they had a kickstart from their exploiting the poor man in Uganda to kickstart their business. This business is their long-term strategy. Come 20 years, you see those people who came as refugees will be controlling Rwanda, and we help Kagame, whereby the Rwandans want to be rich so that his and his family can control the country. Those leaders don't like locals who are rich. They prefer having foreigners who are rich.
Okay, Shamakubi, thank you very much. I'll just open up the conversation now wider to other people. Let's get more people now in the conversation, because we might lose Nasra in Kigali. It's a bit late there. It was already 9 o'clock, going 10 o'clock. I'll just bring her in, just have, excuse me, share some final thoughts, and then even if she wants to leave at any point, she could. Nasra, please welcome back. The plane hasn't landed. From what you've said, the plane is meant to be arriving.
I'm going anywhere, Kassim.
Yeah?
Today I'm staying with you until the end.
Ah, fantastic. No, I was worried that you might actually disappear.
No, it's 10. It's 10 p.m. here, so...
You're still okay?
Kind of, yeah.
All right.
You're saying?
Yeah. No, I was just trying to widen the scope of the conversation. I mean, hearing from what you've had so far about the possibility that you might end up now with the Afghans or Libyans taking over business in Rwanda from the Rwandese. I mean, you've had people like Indians in Rwanda, just like it was in Uganda, people like Sulfor Rwanda, who still, maintain a huge, very strong presence in the economy for a long time. They have been there in Rwanda. Is there a fear, for example? What are ordinary Rwandans actually, probably if you go into a bar, in a pub, in a local place, what's the sort of the vibe regarding this situation of the refugees coming to Rwanda?
Honestly, Rwandans don't give a damn about it. I'm sorry to use the word. Like the typical local Rwandan is beginning to probably wonder why this is becoming such a big deal. Yeah, because
yes.
I mean, we have Congolese refugees, we have Burundians, we have more than 150,000, I think, refugees from as far as Pakistan, So for a layman, for a typical Rwandan, they really don't mind. They don't even understand when they look at these buildings with all those tile rooms and bathrooms of allowances. Like, so what is the problem? Why is Rwanda being criticized for doing something nice? Like, they don't really understand. And probably it's not because they don't understand. I think they also don't care so much because, man, people have more serious issues to think about. They need to think about how they are going to be able to take their kids to school and how to make money. All these other things are, it's for the news and we all move on. And like I said, everyone has been a refugee before, so they are not understanding why, if anything, their country should be criticized for like Joy said, for opening its doors for people to come in. What would be the alternative? It kind of makes you wonder if the UK said these people should not come in, or they should be sent away, and they were taken to New Zealand. Would there still be noise, or is it because it's an African country, you know?
It's an African poor country.
Yes, if they were taken to where in the US, to Alaska in the US, would we still have this kind of backlash? It makes you wonder. It makes you think about so many things. But Rwandans, if I must tell you, at least from I've been doing a few interviews for international press, most people don't really care. They don't see what the big deal is, you know. And
but someone is mentioning here that probably Rwandan people fear to criticize the process just in case the government comes for them. Someone is just sent a message in the
you
chat.
see, the thing is, Kassim, when people are talking about Rwandans fearing to criticize, they tend to assume that they look at the people in Kigali and think that represents all Rwandans. The people in Kigali have TV, they have internet, they are on Twitter, they are on CNN. That is the smallest number of Rwandans. Of the 13 million, the people in Kigali, the elite, are not the ones that are going to determine what someone who is 200 kilometers from Kigali thinks. They don't care. They really don't give a damn. They care about whether it rains.
And the people in the countryside are always free with their views. They'll give them for free.
Not necessarily, but maybe also the things that we think matter to them don't. You know, I was in Butari last week, and I was asking about the Ukraine-Russia war, and the only people who could talk to me about it were the sex workers. They were telling me we're out of business. Do you know? Everyone keeps on telling me prices have gone up, so we are not making money. But university students, any other people who are meeting, different groups, women, you talk about Ukraine and Russia, and they're like, yeah, on the news, what is the issue? Why are they fighting? We hear it on the news. They don't care, because that is not their primary concern. A person who is a farmer cares about how their produce gets to the market. They care about the weather. But talking about people being brought from the UK to live in what, in their opinion, what they see on TV is a mansion, doesn't make sense to them. It's not because they are not brilliant or what, it's because it's a matter that does not give them a sleepless night, you know?
So, Nasra, looking at the security, you said now Kigali has sort of been stormed, if I may use the word, for lack of a better word, by the international media. There's a lot of attention. How is the security there? Are people, you know, are they barred from going to the airport to be able, because you said the flight might be arriving late and there's no access to media? The media will try to poke their noses to make sure they can get something. Is there a large security presence probably to ensure nothing of the sort happens?
The security presence has always been there in Kigali, but now it's even higher, but not because of the refugees, but because of CHOGM. Everything, you know what? Rwanda has been in the news for the last 2 weeks. There was DRC, there's the asylum seekers, there's CHOGM. Everything seems to have fallen of the country at the same time. But when you talk about security, it's mostly because of CHOGM. The journalists, most of them, I think, have decided are going to cover this story, and actually, most of them are credited for CHOGM. So some of them will be staying over here.
So it's a difficult one. Right. Thank you very much, Nasra. Please stay there since you said you were still with us. Just in case the plane lands while we are still on air, who knows? Well, of course, now, for those who didn't understand, CHOGM is the Commonwealth Head of Governments that is being hosted now by Rwanda. It's the first time that is being hosted now in Rwanda and by a non-former British colony as well. And that's quite a big deal. Many heads of states, many heads of governments are flocking into Kigali later on to start attending. And the Prince Charles, I think, is the one expected to be representing the UK government there. And he's one of those actually who has been opposed to the sending of refugees or asylum seekers to Rwanda, a position that he said sort of it is his personal view and not really the view of the monarchy. But of course, that has particular significance. Okay, why don't we just open up the conversation for people who have just joined us? Probably you have no idea whatsoever as to what is going on. Bwana Isma, could you please bring the clip on the BBC just in terms of what this deal is about, just to help our viewers tonight get a feel of, you know, what this deal means, what is going to happen, and the kind of build-up and criticism that has been there. That should help anyone probably who has any doubt to understand. But if you're from Uganda, if you're from Rwanda, if you're from Burundi, if you're from Democratic Republic of Congo, you are not part of this process. So if you came to the United Kingdom to seek asylum, you are not one of those that will be sent to Rwanda. So while we can, you know, have a conversation around it, we are sort of free or safe thus far. But we would definitely feel for those who would have to go through that process, because you never know. While it is Rwanda now, it might turn into a business where other African countries want to jump on board and also benefit. Who wouldn't want 120 million pounds? Isma.
Government announced a new immigration policy. Those who travel to the UK.
The volume is low, but Isma, if you can just increase the volume, please.
May be relocated to Rwanda, where they will have their asylum claims considered.
The first flight was scheduled for this week.
Isma, the volume is a bit low, please.
The Court of Appeal said it wouldn't intervene because it said it had no lawful reason to overturn the decision on Friday from the High Court, where a judge has said that he wouldn't put an injunction in place.
Tuesday's flight goes ahead, but this matter isn't going away. The policy faces a judicial review in July, and while that process plays out, many people are still cramming into small inflatable boats and making the journey from France to England. Already this year, more than 10,000 people have done so, more than twice the equivalent of last year. Most arrive with the help of people smugglers, most will apply for asylum, many will be accepted. But the government wants to stop people reaching the UK illegally, and the plan to fly some arrivals 4,000 miles to Rwanda is part of that.
This innovative approach, driven by our shared humanitarian...
Katie, does it have any volume? We can't hear.
Yes, I was saying to Isma that the volume is very low, and I was asking, Isma, can you please increase the volume if you can hear me?
But from the start, the policy has been met with a range of opposition.
Isma, can you hear us, please? The volume is very, very low.
Maybe he's on a plane to Rwanda.
Isma, the volume is very, very low, please. You can just increase the volume. Isma, can you hear us?
On the grounds of legality, practicality, and efficacy.
The Archbishop of Canterbury had another.
There are such serious ethical questions about sending asylum seekers.
Can we hear it better now, or do we need to readjust it? Isma, the volume is very low. We can hardly hear.
Everybody, bye-bye, because I have to work tomorrow.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Nash, I miss you.
Nash,
I miss you. Bye.
All right, thank you very much, man.
Yeah.
The business model of criminal gangs who are not only risking people's lives, but undermining public confidence in legal migration.
And if the business model of the gangs is broken, then arrivals...
Isma, have we failed on the volume? It's too low.
Since April, over 3,500 people have made the crossing. Numbers haven't dipped at all, though, as this French official emphasises...
Mesurer l'impact. I think it's too early to measure the impact. Regardless of the announcement, I think smugglers will watch to see if this measure is actually implemented. That's what might dissuade them.
Dear members, could I ask, please, if you can just restart this? It was very interesting and we have missed a lot of it. Please, if you don't mind. Viewers, my sincere apologies. Oh. Now the echo comes in. If we can just take it to the beginning, please, so that we've missed a bit of the interesting bits. With sincere apologies. Let's just take it to the beginning, please, Isma. Isma, if you can hear me, please, can we take it to the start, please? Since we've got the volume sorted. Yeah, since we've got the volume sorted, can we take it to the start, please? Okay. The volume is very, very low. Yeah, if you can play it from the start, please. And if you've just joined us, this is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Just to remind you, we are live on 75W Radio, live on Uma Connect, and on YouTube, on Facebook, on Zoom. And your points, your views in the chat room, please. Or you can just raise your hand and share a view. Yes, Isma, we are ready when you are.
The UK government announced a new immigration policy.
Those who travel to the UK by illegal and dangerous routes, including by small boats across the Channel, may be relocated to Rwanda, where they will have their asylum claims considered.
The first flight was scheduled for this week, and it's faced legal challenges.
The Court of Appeal said it wouldn't intervene because it said it had no lawful reason to overturn the decision on Friday from the High Court, where a judge has said that he wouldn't put an injunction in place.
Tuesday's flight goes ahead, but this matter isn't going away. The policy faces a judicial review in July, and while that process plays out, many people are still cramming into small inflatable boats and making the journey from France to England. Already this year, more than 10,000 people have done so, more than twice the equivalent of last year. Most arrive with the help of people smugglers, most will apply for asylum, many will be accepted. But the government wants to stop people reaching the UK illegally. And the plan to fly some arrivals 4,000 miles to Rwanda is part of that.
This innovative approach, driven by our shared humanitarian impulse and made possible by Brexit freedoms, will provide safe and legal routes for asylum while disrupting the business model of the gangs.
But from the start, the policy has been met with a range of opposition.
I do not support the removal to Rwanda policy on the grounds of legality, practicality and efficacy.
Theresa May raised 3 issues. The Archbishop of Canterbury had another.
There are such serious ethical questions about sending asylum seekers overseas. The principle must stand the judgment of God, and it cannot.
The former Brexit Secretary, David Davis, has called it moral delinquency, and the Times reported that Prince Charles privately called the plan appalling. However, Boris Johnson has again justified the policy.
This is about making sure that we break the business model of criminal gangs who are not only risking people's lives, but undermining public confidence in legal migration.
And if the business model of the gangs is broken, then arrivals will reduce. But that's not happened yet. Since April, over 3,500 people have made the crossing. Numbers haven't dipped at all, though, as this French official emphasises, it's early days.
Mesurer l'impact. I think it's too early to measure the impact. Regardless of the announcement, I think smugglers will watch to see if this measure is actually implemented. That's what might dissuade them.
It might dissuade them, but the UN is unconvinced.
The last time this was tried, it ignominiously failed when the Israelis moved Eritreans and Sudanese to Rwanda. They simply left the country and started the process all over again. In other words, it's not actually a long-term deterrent.
In this case, the UK government argues it can be a deterrent. To prove that, the policy needs to remain in place, and for that to happen, it needs to be deemed to be legal. The government says it is.
This agreement is comparable with all our domestic and international legal obligations.
The UN, though, told the High Court it is unlawful. Now, in the case of the first flight, it goes ahead, but this will continue for several months. The government also accepts that whoever is on the plane isn't coming back, as Mark Easton explains.
The Rwandans will do the process. They will decide whether that person is a genuine refugee. If they are, they will be then entitled to remain in Rwanda.
If they aren't, they may seek other immigration routes to stay in Rwanda, but they may be deported. And the UK's policy is now being judged against the UN Refugee Convention. The UK is a signatory. It reads, no one shall expel or return a refugee against his or her will in any manner whatsoever to a territory where he or she fears threats to life or freedom. And that brings us to Rwanda as a destination.
They'll have to be dragged onto planes. That happens now with people who the Border Force are trying to deport. And then when they get there, there'll be all kinds of questions about their treatment and the decency of their treatment.
Those questions connect to how Rwanda's longtime president, Paul Kagame, runs the country. Last year, a UK official noted the lack of a credible independent investigation into allegations of human rights violations, including deaths in custody and torture. But Home Secretary Priti Patel has pushed back at how Rwanda's role has been questioned. She told The Telegraph there are undercurrents of just sheer xenophobia. And this is the Rwandan government's position.
We're a safe country. We're a country that's welcoming to migrants and refugees. We've hosted more than 130,000 refugees some have been here for more than 25 years.
Even if the policy is safe, legal and moral, there are also questions about cost.
We can't ask the British taxpayer to write a blank cheque to cover the costs of anyone who might want to come and live here.
The UK is currently spending £4.7 million a day on hostels for asylum seekers. Boris Johnson wants to reduce that by reducing arrivals. And while the Rwanda plan is supposed to do that, there are costs here too. There's an initial £120 million as part of an economic transformation and integration fund for Rwanda. There's also flying people there. The Times reports that it's estimated it'll cost between £20,000 and £30,000 to remove each asylum seeker to Rwanda. The Guardian reports the Home Office says the cost per person will be comparable to current processing costs in the UK. And in April, one senior civil servant wrote to Priti Patel, telling her, I do not believe sufficient evidence can be obtained to demonstrate that the policy will have a deterrent effect significant enough to make the policy value for money. And these doubts led to the government doing this.
Officials in the Home Office weren't able to precisely quantify the potential benefits of this plan, and so they weren't able to approve it. And so the British Home Secretary, Priti Patel, had to use a technique called a ministerial direction to actually get the policy signed off.
The Home Office couldn't precisely quantify the benefits, and this was the opposition Labour Party.
This scheme is completely unworkable, deeply unethical and extortionately expensive.
Asked how Labour would stop the people traffickers, Sir Keir Starmer replied, have a proper plan with the French authorities and a proper plan for upstream operations to intercept these groups before they even arrive on the north coast of France. And while Labour makes its case, the government highlights 7 safe and legal routes that already exist to access the UK and claim asylum. It points to specific policies for Afghans, Ukrainians, and people from Hong Kong. But the charity The Refugee Council argues that, in fact, for the vast majority of refugees, there's no safe way for them to seek asylum in the UK. And as we see the government's asylum policy being fought over, some believe perhaps this was the goal. Tory MP Jessie Norman says the Rwanda policy is ugly and accuses Boris Johnson of seeking to create political and cultural dividing lines. Mr. Johnson denies this, but whether by design or not, this policy is causing division, with critics alleging a lack of compassion and the Prime Minister responding like this.
There is no humanity or compassion in allowing desperate and innocent people to have their dreams of a better life exploited by ruthless gangs as they're taken to their deaths in unseaworthy boats.
The question, though, is not whether gangs should be allowed to exploit people, it's whether this policy will actually stop that from happening and if it's legal. In the long term, both have yet to be settled.
Basically, I'm sure you get you get an idea as to what we are dealing with. In case you missed out on that, I'm sure now you have been brought up to date with what this is all about. £120 million given to Rwanda to help host these asylum seekers whose process now, or whose asylum cases would be processed in Rwanda, and if they are granted asylum, to stay in Rwanda. It's not even getting a chance then to come to the United Kingdom. Lawyers, of course, and refugee rights organizations have been up in arms, but the courts in the UK so far, with the exception of the Supreme Court, have ruled that the process can go ahead to allow the country to be able to implement its policies, and that's one of them, to be able to control immigration or illegal immigration coming into the country. Now, why don't we just open the conversation? This is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75W Radio, live on Uma Connected, on YouTube, on Zoom, and on Facebook. And as usual, this conversation now opens up to you, the audience, to be able to share your views. I've seen some new people, and quite often that's where I normally run quickly. I'm done, Juma. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, I'm done.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good to have you here. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And I was following the interesting discussions you've done before.
Yes. Oh, and I've just noticed you so much on tonight's conversation. Now, well, I'd just like to take your own, to get your own feeling about this business of sending refugees. What have some people have called cash for deportation. What do you make of it? What's your view on that?
Well, as a professional refugee myself, I've been refugee in so many countries. So,
as a professional refugee,
I've been refugee in Nairobi, Kenya. I've been refugee in Sudan, and I've been refugee in the UK. So, I listen to your views, and I listen to different views. But I really think it's up to the refugees whether they want to go to Rwanda or not, because no one is being forced.
Yeah, so, but I'm done. If you imagine a person who has gone through serious trouble, I mean, paid traffickers along the way, either from Turkey, because that's where you have the biggest operations, actually, it's either in Turkey or in Greece, where you have the gangs that organize the people. Then on the Libyan coast as well, around Benghazi, Misrata, that's always the kind of route where they mobilize. And also in Lampedusa, because I've done quite a deep investigation in Italy, where the mafias are also part of this process in some way, especially on the Sicilian coast, because Lampedusa now just connects there. Someone has gone through all that hell of a trouble to come, and you're looking at coming to the UK because that's where your dream is. You want to come and get a life, you want to get a good job, you want to improve the lives of people back home. To reach here and be told you either go back to your country or be taken to Rwanda, that's quite an expensive place to make.
I understand that, but I think the UK is exploiting the policy of Rwanda, the humanitarian policy of Rwanda.
Right.
Because as a country, many people, including my own mother, they've been refugees and they've been out of Rwanda. So they don't want to see people stranding, like people being unwanted, people being abused, like in Libya. So there've been nine vague of refugee being removed from Libya to Rwanda. And so the ninth move was even just last week. Mm-hmm. And we have seen how they're being welcomed in Rwanda. Now, I have no illusion that Rwanda will provide them the best as they would like to have. Like, sorry, I'm cooking. But
go ahead.
I think at the same time, I would refrain from making this policy as diabolical. I think the British Conservative government want to win their argument of reducing the numbers of refugees or those who are taking risk on boats. Mm-hmm. At the same time, Rwanda want to achieve its policy of welcoming people who are vulnerable and are being refused asylum. Because you remember many refugees from Rwanda lived even in the neighboring countries of Rwanda. But their lives for many years have been really limited because they could not achieve the citizenship of those countries. And many of them were cramped in camps, and they end up becoming, they went to Uganda to fight in wars until they managed to get into Rwanda, and today they are established. So they will not forget what they went through.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them died between the border of Uganda and Rwanda because Rwanda will not accept them as Rwandese, and Uganda say they were Rwandans. In Burundi, it's similar. Many refugees from Rwanda who were brought to Burundi, they were sent to a big forest where animals were eating Rwandese people. And maybe this history is not known to so many people, but there's a place called Mishiha in Burundi where they took Rwandese people, and people died of animals from the jungle because they took them.
Attacked by wild animals.
Yeah, they took them from the city, from wherever they were, and they went to throw them there. And there were no UN, they didn't process them properly. So some of them survived, and they made those areas become cities and thriving. And today they went back to Rwanda. So Rwanda has this recent past in their mind, and they know that some of these refugees are being sent to Rwanda is because the UK simply doesn't want them. So they are in that entanglement,
right,
to accept them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're coming with the money, the 1 million, is it 120 million pounds
yes,
that we've heard?
Yeah.
But there is also a humanitarian element inside. But I'm stressing more and more that for those refugees who don't want to go to Rwanda, they simply should say no, because no one will force them to go. But for those who want to go and try it, because of those packages.
Yes, I'm done. Let me just bring in Joy here, because when you say the refugees who want to go should go, and those who don't want to go should not go, I don't know whether that is a choice that actually has been left to the refugees. Joy,
yes,
yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, my brother. I actually agree with you. You brought very beautiful points as well. I really agree with you that Rwanda has suffered, and most people understand what it means to be displaced. And that's why they have welcomed these people, not for economic reasons only, but because they have already been doing it even when they were not being paid. Moreover, on a limited budget. So for me, I'm really proud. Kassim, I have a family in Rwanda. So I'm not saying it because I'm being patriotic, but because I know that they are really kind people. So just to respond to what you're saying, they are offering these people to go back home or go to Rwanda. So you have a choice. In fact, when you claim asylum, before you sign, they say, do you want to withdraw your claim or do you want to continue? So you are given that chance even when you have already been fingerprinted to withdraw your asylum claim. And they actually tell you, if you withdraw your asylum claim, we shall pay for your return ticket. And there is what they call a repatriation package under the IOM. So they will support you to go home. So it is open. It's open to them. So if you think...
Joy, let's just interrogate this, because this was a question that I wanted just to put Hamdan's point in perspective. The issue that, when you say, Hamdan says, for those who want to go, they can go to Rwanda. If they don't, they can refuse. But refusal is not a choice, because
no, that's not a choice.
Going back home.
There are only two options. You go back to your country or you go to Rwanda. Of course, I'm not glad that they're putting Rwanda in that same line, because Rwanda is a safe place, is an alternative for somebody who really is running away from trouble at home. So there is no option of staying. You can only stay if you're appealing. Otherwise, you're illegal. And if you do that, they're not going to process your claim here. However, the law does not allow the UK to deport somebody who has not been processed. So what the UK is trying to do is not to take the responsibility to hear your story. They are saying, let Rwanda listen to your story. Now, the law does not allow them to deport you back to Iran if they haven't listened to you. So they are saying, we shall take you forcefully to Rwanda. And that's why these people have been protesting and all that, because they're trying to resist this transfer. Rwanda has said, if you arrive and you don't want to be processed here, we shall support you to go back to your country. So Rwanda is not going to return these people to the UK because the law says you can only return the person to their country of origin. So whoever goes to Rwanda will understand that Rwanda is not going to force them to stay. And that's why I liked it when my brother said that actually some Eritreans ended up finding other methods of living. And I think Rwanda has been clever by saying we're not taking on Africans, you understand? Because they will run away still, because the whole purpose was to come to the UK. And like they always said, the UK has messed up the world, you know, especially in the Middle East. And these people, you can say they don't qualify under the Refugee Convention, but because the UK has messed up, you know, their country. For example, Libya, when I joined immigration, the only Libyans we had were interpreters, because Libya was a rich country. The only Egyptians we got were always Arabic interpreters, but they have now messed up those, you know, upon a time rich countries into really, you know, they are really looking for jobs. And we get young people who have been trafficked to Libya. They work on farms for 1 year to get somebody to pay for them to make the trip to the UK. And so the young person has been already we call it modern day slavery. That's what we call it already. So by the time they come here, they are already victims of slavery. How are you going to be sending them again to another country? That's why I'm hopeful that at some point this policy is going to be condemned. But having said that, we're not holding our breath. We're not holding our breath. But what I know is that if you are an individual and you know that you've been a victim of trafficking, you can challenge this transfer to another country.
Fantastic. Well, remember, you can join the conversation. Just raise your hand in case you have a point, just like young Drogba has just done. Just ask questions to the lawyers, because sometimes we might miss on the important aspects of this law, and it's very important that you get to understand. But just as a point, if you are from Uganda, if you are from Democratic Republic of Congo, if you are from Burundi, you are exempted. However, if you are from Angola, you might not be, because Rwanda only refused those countries that have direct borders with itself. Young Drogba, welcome to the conversation. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm sure you've been listening into the conversation.
I've been follow up so much. Thank you guys. You guys are doing an amazing job here. So my question is to Joy. He seems he's doing very well job as he's been given. We do understand your job, but here there's no more qualification. When you're talking about trying to defend Rwanda, don't get me wrong, there's something going on actually, which is as we are out of control, fair enough. But we should never be happy as an African to support the movement of Rwanda as an African, because whatever the case among us, we all came in the same route. So I would say I'm ashamed of our African continent, such as take things like business like that. And my question is to you, Joy, to explain us, is Rwanda doing by good heart or by business? And this question you have to answer me very carefully, because the second question will come as what happened to Israel, the deal Israel and Rwanda, why it didn't go through, why he got failed for that. And you should explain to us, if it's not the business, it's not the money, and don't tell us it's the face, because if it was the face, the Rwanda should agree with Israel bringing the people, carry on without any payments.
So I think your point has been made, and I was just wondering, because the question sounds a bit political rather than legal. But why don't I let Joy actually take it herself.
You're putting me in the firing line.
No, I just felt like it sounded more political.
I'll answer one leg of it. I'm going to answer the one leg of your questions.
Remember, it's just a room, yeah? There's no criticizing anything.
Yeah, conversation. We are having a conversation.
I'll tell you what I think. I will tell you what I think regarding this particular one. Your question is it in good faith or for money? I think it is in good faith. Why? Because we have a history. Rwanda is known, that almost like 80% of the population, they have been refugees. Or they know somebody who was a refugee, or their parents, somebody has seen a refugee. So for me, I think that they are doing it from a good place. But because the UK, we could say the UK is taking advantage of their goodwill to pump in the money. And believe me, it's difficult to maintain refugees. The language, getting paperwork done and all that, they have nothing. You see, even some of us who were born in our countries, we have nothing. What about somebody who has been brought in? So for me, I think that they are doing it from a good place. But of course, the way they have, the media is making it, appear like Rwanda is the one benefiting from it financially. This is not right, because Rwanda has been hosting refugees already without the UK giving them the money. Remember, we have the UNHCR in Rwanda already. So they know how to look after refugees.
But
I
Joy,
think it's in a good place.
You'll have noticed, Joy, that the UNHCR has actually come out to criticize this particular
because they're becoming political. You know why? Because like we saw the CNN, they are. Remember my first line to you, I said, this is a racist policy.
Yeah.
Why are they not taking Ukrainians there? Why? You see, we've got all these Eastern Europeans who are coming here in trouble. Why were they not taking them somewhere? They are picking on Arabs.
Joy. And I've started calling it the Rwanda policy.
It's not even a Rwanda policy. It's the UK. It's the UK.
It's not Rwanda that went to the UK to say, please send those people here. It's the UK that came asking.
Yes.
Now everyone is in the news. It's called the Rwanda policy.
Yeah.
It is all propaganda, trying to extend the problem somewhere else. But we know where the problem is coming from. It's not Rwanda. For me, I think, like I gave an example when Uganda said we're taking on Afghans. Again, they said things like Uganda, that Uganda was poor. How are they going to look after other people when they're already struggling? And we're saying, look, Uganda has been taking on refugees even without being paid. So for me, I think that when somebody who has already been taking on people, takes on more, and then they give you some support, it makes people think it's for money purpose. But I look at the spirit of taking in. Let me give an example. Slovenia, was it Slovakia, Slovenia? They said they were full up. When Ukraine started, they opened like for how many millions? And I was saying, were they full up to take in Arabs? They were full when the Arabs were in trouble. But when these neighbors got in trouble, they opened up. But let me tell you, the UK has even refused to take in Ukrainians. Kassim, how they have been so slow in taking in Ukrainians. So there is a problem.
From 125,000.
Shame upon them. Where other countries, Poland is taking in millions. So what we are saying, this is real Brexit. They don't want immigrants, especially if you're not white. My brother, you said Drogba?
Yes, Drogba. And actually, for me, I was thinking, because his question was it in good faith or for the money?
It is in good faith.
It was in good faith for the money.
It is in good faith. I'm not going to, because we need to look at the history. Yeah. The history shows that they have been taking in without being paid. We also need to look at the behavior of the UK. We can't just go after Rwanda. Let's look at the behavior of the UK. And like my sister said, Rwanda was approached. And there is no way Rwanda can turn away refugee, because of their practice.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Joy. Yes, if you have any views, remember, if you're shy, you can just type it in the chat room. But otherwise, raise your hand. Alternatively, I'll just point at you. The way we have this conversation, no topic is out of discussion. The only difference is we do it decently. We just, tap it with a bit of, decency as we tackle. So there are no abuses here. We just discuss, but no topic is out of discussion. I've seen another face, a new name as well. Alistair. Alistair, are you there? Hi, Alistair. It's always easy for me to sort of notice the new names, the unfamiliar names on there. Alistair, are you there? If you can unmute yourself, please. In the meantime, while you do, I'll just rush to the US. Mariam, Texas. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Mariam.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, now hearing this conversation that is taking place globally, are you worried? You know, what's your feeling? What's your take? The UK has taken it on, but I'm sure the US now will start having conversations probably with the countries neighboring there to avoid a few of you remember the Venezuelan and the Mexican sort of trekking into the US in big numbers, probably trying to block, immigrants coming in, but that was more a Trump policy than a Democrats policy. In general, listening to this conversation tonight, what's your take? What does it make you feel?
Yes, I'm really worried.
Okay.
Because we all come from Africa for a better life in these developed countries. So when they push you back to Africa or an underdeveloped country, which I don't think is as stable as some of the members on the forum think.
Yes.
I'm worried. I'm really worried for those people. I don't think it's as safe as they say.
Well, there's another US person here with us, Hasfa Gaswija. Maybe Hasfa, speak to Mariam, try to calm her worries.
You know,
yes.
I don't know. I mean, Rwanda is full of refugees. Almost everybody was once a refugee, alhamdulillah. I still think there's an ulterior motive than them being very humanitarian to accept refugees. However, to me, my question is, how are these refugees integrating into the Rwandan system? Employment, the schools. I think it is Lady Nash. I think she said these are like 200. The people are like 200 kilometers.
Here, and I think she will be answering.
Yeah, like 200 kilometers from Kigali. So, I mean, do they have schools? Are they integrating them in the system? Are they working? You know, there's so much to worry about. Are they going to come and take over the indigenous people's jobs? What are they planning? Are they just going to be living on the money that they're going to get from the UK? It's those things that you worry about. And how do the people who are the indigenous people in Rwanda, how are they really benefiting from this?
Nash, you're listening to Hasfa's questions, I think. Hello, Nash, are you there?
Yeah, I'm saying,
yes.
Lady Hasfa, they're going to take our jobs.
Well, she's concerned. She's just thinking. She's just thinking ahead.
Let me tell you something. When I was doing some interviews, when this story broke in April, some of the people I asked in Kigali were wondering about that. They were talking about unemployment. They were talking about we are already having a very high. We have big numbers of people who are graduating and they are unable to get jobs. So what happens with these people that are coming in? Well, there has not been an answer to that question as yet, because honestly, even before the refugees came or even before they had plans of coming, the issue of unemployment was there in Rwanda. And I think it's an issue that is not only in Rwanda, it's an issue that is regional.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, those questions are there. Then, of course,
in terms of schools, Hasfa was asking about the schools. Hasfa, you can talk to Nasser.
I mean, because some of these people came from like Afghanistan. They don't even know English. You know, some may not even know English. Some of them.
I really think they have to adjust. I'm sure if McDowell was here,
Or if Charles Cabanero was still here, they would tell you the same thing. When you go to Sweden, at least as far as I've heard, you have to learn their language. So if I move to Sweden, I'm told that is a requirement. I need to learn how to speak the language. If I move to, so those services are being provided to those foreigners, like as they're being moved to a country where they don't even know anything. They have to learn the language. You're in Sweden, I think it takes about a year for you to learn the language. And then, you finally get integrated in the system. So are those services being provided to
I'm just trying to picture now an Afghani speaking Kinyarwanda there, because now Kinyarwanda is sort of the major language.
Can I say something?
Yes,
on that? Let me tell you, we have Afghans in the UK who have been here for 10 years and they still don't speak English. Until 4 years ago, when the UK government said, if you're not going to get your benefits if you don't show that you're learning English. And I'm telling you, our refugees were actually complaining that why are they forcing them to learn English? Of course, we need you to learn English so you are employable. It is for your own benefit. But they are clever.
French people in America as well. They only speak Spanish.
So I'm not, and I've been so tough on that. Like Saint Michael said, you must go and learn English because we don't need interpreters. 10 years later, when you're trying to bring your mother and we're still going to court, we learn interpreter for you. So it is very important for a refugee to try to integrate. They don't speak English here, they will not speak Kinyarwanda, they will learn Kinyarwanda there, because that's the community where they're going to integrate. And again, this is again like empowering them. How are you going to integrate if you're not going to learn the language? By the way, there is a budget for refugees in every country. So much as people make noise about, oh, they're taking our jobs, our women and all that, maybe the women or maybe the men for this purpose, but also there is always a budget that caters for refugees' welfare. Uganda gets a budget for that, and Rwanda is going to get a budget for that. So this budget includes learning the language as well and the skills for survival.
Right. So that will be actually very, very crucial. Well, because one of the policies that was actually tried, I think, Joy, you did mention it very briefly, about the International Organization of Migration, where they started the repatriation package. And I went to Niger and was doing a specific program just on that. People who decided and they thought, we are suffering where we are at, give us the package. And the package is £3,000 from what I remember. So £3,000 that you are given to go back home. If you think about it, well, put it into Rwandan francs, that will be about 3 million, I think, as well. That will be about 3 million Rwandan francs. Ugandan shillings, that's about 15 million Ugandan shillings. And you allow yourself now to go back and go and start establishing yourself. So people who are truly, who are after the target aspect, because there are many people who live like the African countries or wherever they are, and they've come in with a target of 6 months. Yes, there's a quarter 6 months, I just want to do this. Once I get this, I'm done. Of course, some people arrived here for the 6-month program and they've been here for 23 years. That's a different thing in case it doesn't work out for you. But that is one plan. But that is dependent on people who have really come up with the target and they know what they want to do. Most people just want a different type of life. You come to a flashing toilet, you left your toilet of two people a tree, and you've come into a new life that you don't want to throw away. That's different. I think the approach also might be different just in terms of people deciding whether they can return to their homes or actually integrate within the communities where they are at. Let me just bring in more people into the conversation. Hajat S, is it Hajat Sarah? I just see Hajat S. Just want to get you engaging. Hajat S, are you there? Hajat S, can you unmute yourself, please? Let me get Amina Nachiyaga. Hello, Amina, I've been trying to get you to unmute yourself as well.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. I've been trying to nudge you, and you've been trying to avoid.
And I was deliberately staying muted.
Yes.
This is the topic that I say I really do not appreciate really good enough for me to make a submission.
Yes.
But maybe in terms of, I could ask Joy a question. when I don't know, how is it going to be in terms of crime regulation? Are these refugees regulated by the laws in Rwanda or by the laws in UK? If a scenario like that arose? And also, does she have a timeline of how long it might take these people the processing? How long would it be, do you think it might take for them to either be granted asylum or not, if actually it is being done in good faith and it's not that they want to get rid of if it is not racism like Muganda Wafoli Boyagambye. So is there a timeline that you think it might take? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. First of all, at first we thought they were going to take them to Rwanda to process them so they could bring them back here, like what the Australians do. No, it's a one-way ticket. You are going to be processed by Rwanda in the Rwandan system. And when the Rwandans accept you as a refugee, you will be granted refugee status in Rwanda. If the Rwandans don't think that actually you don't qualify for refugee status, then you will be returned to your country of origin. They will not return you to the UK. In other words, it would look like you are claiming asylum in Rwanda. So the UK has just given you a lift to Rwanda. So the first question, have I missed it? Kassim, what was the question? The first question. It was very interesting.
I think it was outlining exactly that, whether
the time, the crime,
the timeline.
The crime. Yeah, yes. She asked about like if you commit a crime, yes, who is going to be responsible?
Yes.
The jurisdiction where you commit the crime is where you are processed. Whatever crime you have committed. What is happening? The UK will no longer be responsible for you the moment you go to Rwanda. Let's take it like that. So if you go to Rwanda and commit a crime, Rwanda is going to try you. And then, of course, they will send you to prison, whatever it is. But regarding deportation, we know all countries don't deport refugees. Once you're recognized as a refugee, they cannot deport you. You can just serve your sentence.
Now, Joy, which actually makes me now think, because Rwanda was very clear when it actually entered into this deal with the UK, they made it clear that no Ugandans, no Burundians, no Congolese would be taken in as refugees. So specifically the countries that it has direct borders with. Actually, no Tanzanians would be taken in as refugees. Now, a case comes up. Is there a possibility then that if the UK starts this policy, becomes effective with Rwanda, given the speed at which they are trying to make it work, could it be that the UK now could approach another country that might be able to take Uganda, because there are Ugandan asylum seekers? We have people who are already in the process who are seeking asylum in the UK. Could it be that now the UK might start approaching another country? That's the point I raised about the ripple effect, that other countries might come into the mix.
We don't want to scare our brothers and sisters. No, we don't want to speculate.
But the thing is, do you see my point, Joy?
I get it, that they may soon find another place for Africans.
You've come to seek asylum. You've just arrived, you've sought asylum. You cannot be taken to Rwanda, and yet the terms that are in place now is that these asylum seekers now would be taken to Rwanda. Rwanda has made it very clear, those 4 countries, Uganda, Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania.
You see, Kassim, I told you in the beginning that this thing is a target to the Arabs, and I think, and the Muslims. I'm being honest with you, because those are the targets, and they are targeting the countries they have messed up mainly. So I don't see them trying to locate Africans here to, for example, where in the Middle East or where they don't have anywhere to take the Africans.
No, I mean more African countries coming on board. For example, remember,
we got Nigerians arriving.
The Gambia offered and took in some Rohingya Muslims from Bangladesh, from Myanmar, who are getting persecuted there. They took them in, a few of them, but yes, they took them in. Rwanda, as you've heard, and Uganda took in Afghan women, already in those countries. Rwanda took in Libya. So Libyans. So if there are other African countries that might be in the position where they can say, we can take them in, who wouldn't want 120 million pounds, to start processing? That's what I mean. Do you see the possibility? Because now, since Rwanda, which is available now, can't take in the Ugandans, the Burundians, the Congolese, or the Tanzanians, that another country might just offer itself.
But you see, because we have the East African community where there's freedom of movement, and once you give refugees status, they need to exercise that. You know, they want to integrate and enjoy almost the same rights as the citizens. So I think it's because of the East African community.
Right.
Mainly, that's the reason why Rwanda has made it clear, because there is free movement and they'll be getting documents which allow them to move around. You see our Sudanese refugees, they are just free to move around as well. But let's worry when we get there, Kassim.
It's a hypothesis, but one that probably might come to have a conversation about. Hasfa, it looks like you have a question for Joy. Or maybe
yes. Miss Joy, I just have a question for you. My question is, there are some people who are going to be sent to Rwanda that might have had family in the UK, and maybe they asked to stay, but then they were denied. So if somebody files for someone who's already sent to Rwanda and maybe as a spouse, for instance, will the UK people allow them back in on a different status?
Yes, this is about illegal immigration, or people come on the boats. And first of all, just to let you know, I said this earlier, they are not sending people who have family members in the UK. They are not sending them. So it is your duty to show that you have a family here. Of course, people make up stories, but of course, if the family is my uncle's cousin and all that, they're not going to accept that. You need to be really in direct line. So if you
ascertain who's the direct relative?
It depends on what relationship you are claiming, because we do DNA. We do DNA. If you remember, remember the Dublin Convention, with Calais system, where they were bringing refugees from, those young people from Calais. We had a Dublin arrangement. So if the burden is on you to prove that you have a family here, but if you can't prove it, then they will assume you don't have a family and they're going to remove you to Rwanda. But if you fall in love later on and you have a partner here, you will come back under immigration rules, because the immigration rules are clear and you're going to be coming in legally. That's what Patel wants. Come to the UK legally.
And most of these refugees, Joy, you remember, the asylum seekers, actually, by the time they come, they always have numbers of relatives. Quite often you'll find, it's rare to find an asylum seeker who is actually they are coming out of the blue and they are the first person to come in. Quite often,
there are so many, Kassim, the ones who are arriving right now on the boats, they are the first in their family to be here. And they have nobody. They have nobody. They will tell you, my uncle's friend. That kind of somebody who has connected them in the village. But you know what? We were doing DNA. We had situations where the Home Office would dispute the relationship. And you see, once they dispute the relationship, the only evidence you can give is DNA. And guess what? They were refusing DNA because they knew they were not related by blood. But again, there's what we call de facto relationships. So de facto relationships is where, for example, your families were like family friends and you were too close, like our Sudanese, where a neighbor breastfeeds your child. And technically that child becomes, part of the family. So we go beyond just, the DNA relationship. If you have a medical condition and a lot of other things that lawyers can use. But again, like we said, it will depend on each individual situation.
Each individual case. All right. Hajat, you have the mic. Finally, you've unmuted. I was trying to get you and we couldn't get through to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you? It's been long since we had.
I know.
Interesting conversation that is ensuing at the moment.
Yeah, it's very interesting and annoying at the same time, because when you look at, it's a shame to see a fellow foreigner trying to push fellow foreigners away from the country because she's got a certain status in society. It's a real shame. And I find them to be,
Priti Patel. To the Priti Patel, yes.
Yeah, and even when you look into the immigration system, it's those people who have been foreigners themselves who really are harsh. If you have a British person dealing with your case, you might get through much quicker than when you have an Indian or anyone from any other foreign country dealing with your case. They have no mercy whatsoever. One thing I think that is happening is they know that they have created trouble in the West, in the Middle East. and they want to keep those people as far away from them as possible because they fear these guys one day might avenge all the trouble they've caused in their own countries. So it's why they have sent them away from UK to Rwanda as far as they can. If you look at Rwanda being like 9 times smaller than UK, how could the UK be overwhelmed with refugees and think that the small country like Rwanda can accommodate them when they also have many other refugees coming from East Africa or countries around East Africa whom they are accommodating? It's such a very tiny country. They can't have the resources to look after those people.
And just in now breaking news, the flight is not happened. No one is being deported. The flight has been cancelled. So
Alhamdulillah.
Joy would be smiling in the context. I think it's those sort of the last minute decisions and appeals that were made, because 7 were supposed to leave, 4 made a last minute claim, and then the plane now would have taken 3. But it was not about the numbers, it was more about the precedent. And I think for now, that might be a delay for someone. So Nash, I'm sure you can now go to your sleep. The flight has been cancelled. Won't be happening.
I think we anticipated that. I think anyone who has been following this story anticipated that, because by the time we're remaining with 7 from 130, that was a downward spiral. Yes. But I can see the European Court has blocked the removal. So
right. So yes, it is. Agama here says European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg grants Rule 39 request to stop the flight to Rwanda from leaving basis. Real risk of inhuman and degrading treatment. Article 3 of ECHR.
Wasn't that granted only for the other applicant from Iraq who was on hunger strike?
Well, apparently, I think that's what they might have used that as a basis now for the other candidates, for the other asylum seekers that were supposed to be taken in, but the flight apparently has been cancelled. So we can confirm that the flight has been cancelled.
Kassim.
Yes.
It's also mostly because of the outcry from UNHCR.
Yes.
It's what they're basing on. They're saying that they will not have access to fair and efficient procedures for the determination of refugee status. So when they live to see another day in the UK. I have a strange feeling that you're going to have this kind of session again sometime soon.
Oh,
maybe.
Yes, no, this is the story that is still developing. Only what we have done is we've touched it, we've nipped it in the bud, and what we've done is we've just touched the little bits. More aspects, I think, would be coming in, and what probably I can request of you is to try to reach out to the other, the refugees or asylum seekers from before, the Afghans, if you can, and the Libyans, just to get a feel of what exactly is happening and how they are receiving this particular news. Do they feel angered by the fact that they could easily be taken in Rwanda, and that was seen as a celebration, and yet when it comes now to the UK, the story is different? It would be interesting just to hear their own take on this particular. It's actually time now. We are 15 minutes over. Isma, I'll ask you to prepare that last short clip for us as we leave, but I think I'll bring in Mr. Issa Makumbi. I'll get in one more person as well, just a person who hasn't spoken tonight, so at least we can take it. And actually, we'll take it from Agaba and then go to Issa Makumbi, since you've already had a say. Agaba, you've brought us the latest news in terms of the breaking news. I've been following it up here, and then the moment I just put my phone away, everything just went haywire to where we are at now. Agaba's iPad, do you mind unmuting, please? Agaba, I'll come to you, Mr. Makumbi, after Agaba. Let's just take Agaba and then come to you as we wrap up. Mr. Isma Sebo in the technical department, please prepare that nice clip. I think it will leave us with a little bit of a smile on our faces, despite a difficult conversation that we're having tonight. Agaba, are you able to unmute yourself, please? Hello, Agaba. Okay, we'll just go to Issa Makumbi then. That's Issa Makumbi, please go ahead.
it has been a good exercise that they haven't been deported to Rwanda. But if they are being taken to America or Australia, would there have been any news about that? We should praise Rwanda for having volunteered to take those who need. Remember when I was a refugee, when I was seeking for refugee in those days, even I approached Nigerian government to allow me to go there, but they turned it down till I made my way to London. So the procedures, if African countries are coming back forward to help our brothers, we should appreciate. That's the right move in the right direction. Even though they are poor, but they try to share the little there is with those who are suffering. And the second point, that's a very big issue that has been, it won't go away. Trafficking, so many people have lost their lives crossing that channel. We shouldn't underlook all those issues. Much of those who come here, you find that 10% are genuine refugees. Most of them are economic refugees. Another point.
But you also know that the Uganda saying that you have first.
Yeah, but the fact is,
notice that
if you can say if it is your turn, you want to volunteer. But if it is your neighbors, you say you face us. The other issue is when you talk about Britain and America have been so generous to the refugees and foreigners.
No, that's very true.
We should appreciate wherever there's anything, you appreciate it. I've seen our friend from Sweden, he made a comment that because being there, you don't have any right to access any good job. We should appraise those people. Some of them were deporting our fellows. They are Ugandans, but they went to the high office, which they can't happen anywhere. For us to be at least very grateful that we are here. We are not all that discriminated. There's a piece of discrimination, but compared to others, we stand out. So we should appreciate. Though they are doing bad things, at times when you're condemning, you should bear that in mind. And good night.
Yes, very true, actually, because it can easily be lost in the translation when you miss out on that. We shouldn't be saying, the UK now is getting to that difficult timing, but at least for refugees and the United States of America, they have been really, really kind of opened up opportunities. But even countries like Sweden as well and Denmark, you see that they have to an extent been good. But I think the pressure now is from the right-wing parties that are getting a lot of clout and as a result are causing much of.
I've checked the data. Fun enough, Conservative takes in more refugees than Labour because we fight for the same work. We fight for the same job. They have.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Joy, some last word, please, as we wrap up. Isma, please, let's have that clip to just wrap up our night. Joy, last words now. You've listened. We started the program with a flight that is meant to be, airborne. Now we realize it hasn't happened. Probably any final words for tonight's conversation.
Thank you so much, Kassim. Thank you for bringing us together for this discussion on it's called real-time discussion as they were also dealing with the flight. So for me, I'm happy if it has been cancelled and we shall learn something out of this. But again, for me, I'm just so proud of us, of our small countries. Even with the little they have, they're sharing and opening up for refugees. For me, I'm just so proud of Rwanda. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's a very nice note to end tonight. I can only thank you very much for all of those of you who made the time and made a very, very interesting conversation. Isma, if we can just have that clip, I think it would just be one that would actually be our lullaby tonight. But thank you very much. This is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we've been live on 75W Radio, live on Umma Connect, on YouTube, on Zoom, on Facebook. See you next week on Tuesday, inshallah. I'll leave you with this particular little funny song.
Bye, Kassim.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Please just watch this.
We're attempting to sing one song from every country in the world. From Rwanda, this is Tari Hinda by Cecile Kayira. Be
Thank you very much, and inshallah have a very good night. See you next week, Tuesday, same time, 8 o'clock to 10 p.m. Inshallah. I can only say
Where
thank
do we
you.
get links from?
Huh?
Where do we get links from? You said
the link,
different
yes, if you just go to YouTube, look for Ummah Connect. So that is UMMAH Connected. And then you just look for Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira. There are different programs, but under that
let me put the link for her in the chat room.
Ah, right. Yeah, we can put it.
So it's always one link.
Huh?
It's actually the same link that she used today.
Yeah. No, it's not the same.
Okay.
It's not the same link. This link was for connecting onto Zoom. The link they are bringing is the YouTube link. So you just watch it directly without having to go through that. And
so when you're discussing on YouTube, how do people contribute to your conversation?
On YouTube. On YouTube, normally
when you're having a when you're having a live conversation, how do people contribute to your conversation?
They can actually go into the comment section on YouTube and comment.
Okay.
Now off the back of this one, because it's already run, we'll have it. We can follow up on the comments. So we just go in, follow up and respond to the comments on YouTube.
All right. It was a pleasure, Kassim.
Oh, thank you very, very much. Much honored. And the flight didn't happen. I'm sorry. So you can go to sleep now. Thank you very much. And greetings to everyone in Kigali there. And good luck with Program. I was meant to be there, but it didn't happen. I was tied down. I could only come late July. So in which case it will be gone. The link is there, Nash. The link is there now.
Thank you so much.
The chat room. You can just grab it, copy it and paste it, and you'll be able to follow up, inshallah. Thank you very much and have a very good night. See you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.